What specific initiatives, do you have in place, especially for women and youth entrepreneurship? When it comes to how they can take advantage of these initiatives.
You see, thank you so much, Mr. Ademola. Hold on. So the financial inclusion journey, in Nigeria has been on for a very long time, particularly 2012 when the initial national financial inclusion strategy, was launched, was issued in the Central Bank of Nigeria. At that time, the exclusion rate was quite high. I think about 46% of Nigerians at that time does not have access to formal financial services. Okay, so that time a target was set, and that target was to achieve 80% inclusion by the year 2020 at that time, meaning the flip side of it is that to have at least, or not more than 20% exclusion. Exclusion wise, the lesser the better, right? So when the journey started, at that time it was so primitive, in terms of in a flexibility even within the financial services. So because of that deliberate and intentional policy decision of the country, so a lot of initiatives were instituted, and as of today, a lot of changes has happened. Let me give example. Unlike before, where if you get to your bank, you have to have this document, that document, identity, what do you call it, and all sort of documentation needed for you to open an account, and of course with the minimum deposit and all that. So because of that policy document, a lot of things were changed. I think they introduced one of the beautiful aspects of them is a issue of tiered KYC, right? The KYC, which is the know your customer, right? So that policy was instituted in order to reduce the complexity while being mindful of the risk management aspect of it as well. So 3 levels at that time, a policy was issued whereby at the entry level, tier 1, you can just walk into the bank and just maybe with any form of maybe with yourself without really much identity, you can access tier 1 KYC level. Certain amount was pegged in order to ensure that as you are into the system, you can do some transaction at the basic level. But then again, for you to achieve full-fledged high level, high amount, within your account, there's a need for you to bring those documentations that were, that were, can I say, waived, at the entry level. So then the second level, you need to have a means of identity, not necessarily any form of identity card, for example, to achieve tier 2. Do you understand? There was also a peg of somewhere around 500,000 or so. Then again, for you to have a full-fledged KYC, there's a need for you to have utility and other. So this one was an intentional initiative introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria in order to achieve this. The same thing also, a lot of people at that time, they don't come into the formal financial services simply because they do believe that banking is driven by interest, which in Hausa language you call it riba, or Arabic language haram, right? Is not so because of that, the central bank also came up with the initiatives of non-interest banking, whereby a lot of people now, in addition to having confidence in the system, also now realize that the banking is now for us because our religion now allow this thing to happen. So a lot of people also came into the formal financial system as a result of that, initiatives. Women were also put into consideration, whereby some interventions, especially during the last administration, central bank did some sort of interventions. One of such I can give example is MSMEDF, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Fund. There was a certain amount, I think, that was pegged, purposely targeting women, right, in order to encourage women entrepreneurs for them to come into the formal financial services. I think there's also people with disabilities, certain amount was pegged for that. So not only in central bank, other ministries, departments and agencies came up with different specific and intentional initiatives in order. Then also financial literacy was also instituted. The framework as a national level was also introduced, and at the same time consumer protection. So all these ones were specific policies that were launched in order to encourage people to come into the formal financial space. As at the last count, December 2023, the report, this agency, EFINA, enhancing financial innovation and access, which has been rebranded just last week to enhancing financial inclusion and advancement, they came up, their own report showed that as of December, 74% of Nigerians were financially included. Right, 74%. Yes, included, as against the exclusion rate of 26%. You can see the journey started with 46%, right? Now 26%. I told you exclusion, the lower the better.
Get their figure from?
They do survey. They get to people. They have all sort of, they have a standard way which they work in collaboration with the NBS, National Bureau of Statistics, and of course other agencies. They go across the country. There is a standard way of doing things which has been globally recognized. All the development partners also. So the figure they come up with, 74%, 74% included, 26% excluded. Within this 74%, 64% they are banked, while 10% are informally served. Other initiatives, other ways of accessing, financial services. But the target is for people to operate within the regulated entities. The beautiful aspect of it is that there are agencies who are charged with the responsibility of regulating, those agencies, so that you can easily wade in if there's any issue. They can be able to track what exactly is the issue. But when this administration came on board, what we did something different was that economic inclusion is very, very important because it's an enabler to financial inclusion. All the nuances of, open an account, have access to financial services at lower cost and all of that. But again, if you open an account, if that account is not active, is not being used, I think the whole aim is defeated, right? So that is why this administration now combine this economic and financial inclusion all together, right? So the first activity we did was signing of the ASWA Accord on economic and financial inclusion. What is the whole ASWA Accord all about? I think they are basically built on 3 pillars. Number one of such is to recognize that this administration recognizes the importance of economic and financial inclusion, which has been clearly embedded in the blueprint of Mr. President, renewed our agenda, right? We have access to capital as part of the pillars. We have inclusivity, targeting, specialized groups or whatever. Inclusivity is one of such, in addition to all these other parameters, job creations, food security and all that. So recognition of the fact that economic and financial inclusion is very, very pivotal in this administration journey towards $1 trillion economy is one. Secondly, also is the commitment of this administration to support the implementations of policies and programs, that will enhance economic and financial inclusion, economic advancement, economic opportunities and whatnot, right? Then the last one is to promote what? Public-private partnership. That's why I was excited when DG was speaking. I was talking about, leveraging technology and all that. So we encourage, we encourage and we promote, interagency within the public space, then, and also within the private sector, as well as the coming together public and private sector, to support, the economic and financial inclusion. That's why symbolically, on 25th of April, the representative of different segments of the Nigerian economy came together and signed an ASWA Accord on economic and financial inclusion. So I think that is the combination of this economic and financial inclusion. So now with the inauguration of this committee that happened just some weeks ago, we're also rolling out some high-level policies that combine both the financial side and the fiscal side in order to come together to support Nigeria last month. Thank you.